I believe human beings, we want to do good. We may not be aware of the degree of compassion we have within us, or we may feel limited by the practical and the professional constraints of our lives. But if someone made it simple for us and led the way, perhaps every single one of us would want to do something meaningful. The story that I'm going to share with you guys today is the one that taught me this very important, heartening, and empowering lesson during the darkest, gloomiest phase of our lives. In our collective consciousness, one of the gloomiest time in the recent past was the COVID-19 pandemic. When trapped in our homes, we were losing our minds as the world outside had come to a standstill. But we remember that many doctors and healthcare professionals and essential service providers were stepping out every day to contribute. My wife is a doctor. She was one of them. Every day as she left for work, I felt proud, but I also felt scared for her. And it also reminded me that I had studied to be a doctor too. I had studied at Armed Forces Medical College, but I never practiced. So, in that time of need, I could not join my wife or other healthcare professionals to be of any help. Now, this was particularly distressing for me because many years ago, when I had decided to change my profession, people who were most critical of my decision brought this up as their most potent logic. The job of a doctor is noble and meaningful. The job of a filmmaker is not. And the lockdown threatened to remind me that perhaps they were right. After all, what can a filmmaker do in a spiraling pandemic? Write a story about it? It's funny how most of our time is spent in creating heroes who fight challenges of life, and here life was asking questions and I had no answers. If your job requires you to be in the fantasy land, can you move the needle in the real world? So, after about a week of not knowing what to do, an idea came to me. I went on Twitter and I tweeted that I was going to teach online. I was going to teach film writing, film directing online, and all the money that I made through the process, I would donate that to COVID charity. Now, for an endeavor like this to succeed, it was very important that people trusted me with their money. Otherwise, why would they invest their money? It might be difficult for me to convince them that I would not pocket all the money myself, right? So I created a system. If you wanted to attend my class, you make a donation to a charitable organization and email me the receipt of your donation. But I also realized that if choosing the beneficiary became a time-consuming or a complex process, then not many people would step up. So I decided to make it simple for them. I made a list of some 20 organizations. I also made sure that they represented a variety of causes. So if you love animals, we had an organization for you. If you are, say, based in Chennai, we had a Chennai-based organization for you. I included state government funds from different parts of India, charitable hospitals, and different organizations who cater to the needs of marginalized communities. On 1st of April 2020, I did my first lecture. It was a 5-hour long online version of my favorite class, Fundamentals of Screenwriting. We had a total of 10 students and we donated 10,000 rupees on that day. It felt extremely heartening. So I announced more lectures on different topics and the word started to spread. As more students started to join us, many of them did more than one lecture with me, I noticed a pattern. Since most of the students were from big cities, especially Delhi and Mumbai, the bulk of the donation was going to organizations based in Delhi and Mumbai. There is this concept from social psychology which tells us that we feel motivated to contribute to a cause that is physically closer to us. So if your state is going through a flood, you will be motivated to do something. But if some region in South America is having a flood crisis, you may not perhaps care that much, right? Now, in a pandemic, we had to look beyond big cities. You have to think pan in a pandemic. So I made a tweak to the donation system. If you wanted to attend more than one class, you could not donate to the same organization twice. So every time you came for my classes, you had to choose a new organization from the list. I added more organizations to the list. The number of our beneficiaries was increasing, and through them, our reach was enhancing too. Now, I did this for a few days on my own. And then I started receiving help from a cousin of mine and then a group of about half a dozen film students. They volunteered for help. So they started verifying the donation receipts, replying to email inquiries, and coordinating with all the organizations we were dealing with. One of them, in fact, created a web page for us that automated the process, which until then was completely manual. Now, this team, comprised of individuals who were younger and cooler than me, they strongly believe that we must fiercely promote the lectures. We should have some kind of PR campaign, we should collaborate with other organizations, and they wanted me to join Instagram. I was not comfortable with all of this because, you know, the age-old saying that your left hand should not know when your right hand is doing charity. But my team convinced me that it would be more effective if we do not abide by this saying. A virtuous cycle benefits if you talk about it. So we did a PR campaign with the help of some friends and we got some decent media coverage. The result was many senior film professionals, writers, directors, actors, technicians, they started approaching me because they wanted to be a part of the endeavor. Apart from hosting them on some of my guest sessions, every time one of them did a session solo on my platform, it also gave me some time to catch up on some much needed sleep. I also got to know that there were more people who were adopting my methodology to start initiatives of their own. Like a student of mine, he did a cinema quiz for his housing society to raise money for COVID charity. The Screenwriters Association of India contacted me to understand my process so that they could start their own COVID charity lectures. Now, all of this was getting a little too exhausting for me. Dealing with everyone while trapped in my house, constantly thinking of how to make it attractive and interesting for more and more people, planning the lectures, preparing them, and then conducting the lectures, it was getting physically and emotionally draining. I didn't know if I could continue doing this beyond a few days. But then my students, they told me that in these hopeless times, my lectures were the only source of hope for them. My lectures were the only thing they would look forward to. In fact, they were not even aware of the degree of compassion they had within them until they became a part of this initiative. So, people who received food, clothes and medicines, they were not the only beneficiaries. We were beneficiaries too, because we were contributing. Perhaps all of this goodwill had to build until 31st of May when I did my last lecture. We had reached 2,000 students by then. And these 2,000 students were from all over India, including small towns. They included Indians living abroad, and they also included people from other nationalities. For example, we had a group of filmmakers from Karachi who had become a part of our initiative. It feels like when all these people came together, something meaningful, something big was happening. Imagine 2,000 people joining hands to be part of an initiative started by one person sitting in one small Mumbai apartment. And in these 2 months, the amount of money that we raised was more than 28 lakhs of rupees. 5 days after my last lecture, my film Chintu Ka Birthday was released. It was as if all this goodwill was required for the film to come out. The film is the story of a family trying to celebrate the birthday of their youngest member, trapped inside their house as the world outside is at war. This was the story of every family during the lockdown. So, 13 years after it was written, the film met the audience when perhaps they most definitely needed it. At this point, you would imagine that my COVID story had met its perfect ending with the release of my film. Well, 1 year later, in May 2021, I was diagnosed with COVID during the deadly second wave. It was a very difficult case. Both my lungs were severely affected, my liver, heart, my endocrine system, my skin was affected. I required oxygen for some 45 days, 12 of which were spent in the terrifying loneliness of a COVID ward. It was easily the worst health scare of my life. But around that time, I was flooded by messages and mails from students whom I had inspired and taught a year ago. They reminded me of this wonderful thing that we did together, and they wanted me to get well and get back soon. My COVID story was not just a silver lining for a summer. It had become a story for life. And this was perhaps the biggest lesson that I learned from this journey. You start something with a good intention. You commit yourself to it with sincerity. Be imaginative about how you can use the resources around you. And you can't imagine the amount of joy that you will receive in the process. And it will also empower you in the practical sense. 4 years since, I continue to use the online teaching modules that I had developed over those 2 months. My reputation as a teacher has grown, and all of this has given me the perfect alternate source of income to support my filmmaking career. This has also brought me in contact with some of the brightest, talented filmmakers I know. They are younger than me, but they are perhaps more talented than me, and they want to collaborate with me. And knowing them makes me feel personally, it makes me feel richer, and professionally it makes me feel powerful. The size of the tribe that you can build sitting in the loneliness of your room is enormous today in this information age. Your economic status cannot determine your social utility. And the choice of your profession cannot define the nobility of your intent. I know that in the future, if life tests us and threatens to limit us, I'll use all the lessons from this experience and with all sincerity give a call to which hundreds and thousands will respond, because every one of us wants to do good, even if we don't know how to do that. We may feel lost and confused, and there might be chaos and darkness around us, but then one of us will light a candle and a new story will begin. Thank you.